Now, I've always been saying this that in as much as evil has always been around for thousands of years, it seems like in these current times, evil is becoming too rampant and it's now even permeating and persisting in places previously felt as safe spaces where you could go to and have a sense of security and safety. And one of such places is the church. Today's true crime story is coming from Nigeria in West Africa. This is a neighboring country to my country, Ghana. And it involves a situation where a pastor is the prime suspect of the demise of a young university graduate who was just 28 years old, called Quadri Adedamola. Forgive me if you are not so familiar with the names. This is where we get African, and I hope you appreciate it. So, this case is an evolving case. It's ongoing. As recent as between January to March of 2025, sorry. Now, the gentleman at the center of this, the victim, is 28-year-old Quadri Adedamola. And Quadri was declared missing on the 16th of January 2025. Just so you get a sense of who Quadri is, he's a graduate from the University of Lagos. As recent as 2024, he read political science. So you would expect that he has some level of education, he has some level of knowledge, he's a bit smart at least. And it turns out he's also the CEO of a consultancy called Hola Edu Consultancy. And it's basically a private business operating at the Lagos University campus. Now, on this fateful day of him going missing, his girlfriend indicated that she called him and he said that he was in front of a church, which has now become the church cited as the possible crime scene that led to his demise. Now, the name of this church is the CCC Ileri Oluwa Parish, and it's located at a town called Lasu 2. So, according to his girlfriend, she called Quadri, and Quadri said he was at this church, that's the CCC Parish, and that he would call her back when he was done. Fast forward, he didn't call her back. She didn't get to meet him ever. Nobody could trace the whereabouts of Quadri. So a report was lodged with the police and an investigation began. But the investigation was yielding no fruits because it seemed like Quadri had disappeared without a trace. And nobody disappears without a trace unless either they don't want to be found or somebody else do not want them to be found. Sometimes there's a third possibility where the investigation is done poorly. So it seems like they've disappeared without a trace when in fact they are having a trace. But then the police didn't give up. They intensified the investigation and eventually they got his bank statement. And this is where everything started manifesting. You know, in the annals of police work or even the criminal world or any investigation for that matter, one of the key go-to points is follow the money. And the police decided to follow the money. They pulled his bank statement. And when they pulled his bank statement, they discovered that an amount of 1.5 million naira was transferred from his account on the very day that he went missing. Now, this started begging a lot of questions. First of all, where is Quadri? Because we've been seeking to find this guy and he's nowhere to be found. He's vanished without a trace. Now we go to his bank account and it turns out that on the very day he will be reported missing, an amount of 1.5 million naira is transferred from his account. So then the next best thing to do would be to look for the beneficiary account of that transfer and go and talk to the person, because it means that at least they may have had an interaction, be it face-to-face or phone conversation or whichever form of conversation, on the very day that Quadri would end up going missing. So they had to go and look for the beneficiary of that funds transfer and engage the person. And it will turn out that the person who received this amount was the daughter of the pastor of this church, and then the pastor himself, amongst other accounts. So the 1.5 million naira was transferred, but then it was split into several beneficiary accounts, one of them being the pastor of this CCC church, where, if you remember, Quadri had allegedly told his girlfriend when she called him that he was, after which he was never seen again. So then the question marks started getting bigger and several, because we called him, or his girlfriend called him, and he said, "Oh, I'm at your church. I'm at you, this pastor, I'm at your church. So my girlfriend, I'll call you back when I'm done." And then he goes missing. We can't find him. We search his bank statement. 1.5 million naira is transferred, and this same pastor of that same church is receiving some of the money in his own account, his daughter's account, and other accounts as well. So definitely that pastor would climb the list of possible suspects to become a key figure to be looked at. And that was what the police did. Now, this pastor, and they call him Shepherd. The church calls him Shepherd. This pastor is called Shepherd Whepetoji Babaniyeh. Now, his titles include shepherd, superintendent, and evangelist. So let me accord him all that, because in the spiritual realms, they don't play with these titles. That's what I've heard. So the pastor is called Shepherd, Superintendent, Evangelist Whepetoji Babaniyeh. When he was questioned by the police about this money, he initially denied receiving the money. And he did that because the police had not yet shown him that they had the guy's bank statement. They just asked him if he had received any money from Quadri. And this Shepherd Whepetoji denied having received any money. But then the police went on to show him the evidence they had. That was Quadri's bank statement, showing that, hey, you are telling us you haven't received any money, but the statement shows that money moved from his account to your account. At which point, this pastor, who is supposed to have been upright, would now confess that, okay, he received some money from Quadri, and that it was Thanksgiving money or Thanksgiving offertory from Quadri to the church. At this point, the police would realize that, no, we have to get this guy into detention because he has lied to the police, and then he's also a beneficiary of some of the money that moved from this possible victim's account on the last day he was ever seen by anybody. So definitely he's a prime suspect. Until he's cleared, he's a prime suspect, and they took him into detention. Fast forward, the investigation was still persisting, and then, lo and behold, I told you the church was a crime scene at this point. So they were canvassing the compound of the church, the bushes, nearby facilities and uncompleted buildings around the church, only to end up finding the remains of Quadri. And it was buried near the church premises. Reports are indicating that Quadri was allegedly buried under the shepherd's supervision. The police therefore decided to go into the church itself and search the church premises, only to find a gun and an axe in the custody of this shepherd or pastor. So it's an ongoing case, like I told you. This is where the investigation has got into. But I'm sure if you followed from beginning to this point, if you put 2 and 2 together, I'm sure you're already seeing what it looks like. Now, further reports are alleging that when the body of Quadri was found, some parts of his body were missing. And in Africa, the moment that is seen, the first thing that is suspected is that he was unalived and parts of his body was used for money rituals. If you are somewhere in the eastern part of the world, Europe, the Americas, maybe China, Asia, you may not be too familiar with the concept of people being killed for money ritual purposes, but it's very real here in Africa, to the point that there are some people who believe that human sacrifices can be made to some deities and particular parts of the person delivered to this deity, and after that ritual, they would get a lot of money and prosperity. It's currently being suspected that this pastor, also called a shepherd, possibly might be the one who took the life of Quadri and also possibly used him for money-making rituals. All these have not been proven yet. There are no reports of the pastor confessing to anything. Everything that has been said so far is what is being reported as allegedly having been found by the police. The police themselves are yet to come out to issue an official statement. I'm really waiting for that, because it's at that point that everything begins to fully take shape. It's an evolving case, but it begs the question, even the mere fact that this pastor is at the center of all these things, he has already lied about receiving money from this guy, and that in itself creates a huge suspicion on him. And it creates this tension where now there is this sense that nowhere is safe and nobody is cleared that you are safe with such a person. Or if I should put it better, you are not safe with anybody. Because if men of God are now even being cited at the center of possible ritual murders, money laundering and other things, then you begin to ask yourself, where am I safe at? I think the only place you are safe at is wherever you are alone. At least you can be safe with yourself, unless you are also unhinged and you want to even do something. So at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to put across on a more serious note is, don't let your guard down. Always keep your head up, keep your head on a swivel. I'm not saying you should be paranoid, but somebody once said a little bit of paranoia is healthy because it keeps you alive. I don't think it's paranoia. I think it's your instincts being always up and sharp. Because people sometimes are trying to trick you. Some people sometimes are trying to take advantage of you. Some people sometimes are trying to mess you up, end your life, do something to you just so it improves their lives. And sometimes it comes from people the society has grown to trust on the basis of the positions they hold in the society, the job they do, what they represent, what they are supposed to represent, amongst others. But at the end of the day, I have a policy that always vet everybody and everything. Don't leave that aspect of your safety to anybody. Don't let somebody just transfer that to you that, oh, this guy is good, you can trust him, and you start trusting. That is dangerous because you don't know the template with which that person making that recommendation vetted this person they are telling you you should just trust. Vet for yourself. You could be in a better position expertly, instinctively, intuitively to determine whether somebody or someplace is safe. Don't leave it to others to just dictate that to you. It could make the difference between whether you come back home to your family or not, or whether you get to achieve the future and destiny you are seeking for yourself, or your life will be cut short. As it stands now, there are several possibilities. Investigations are still ongoing, but 2 facts have been established. The first fact is that, unfortunately and sadly, Quadri is dead. And they don't yet know exactly who is responsible. And the second fact is that money moved from Quadri's account to this pastor or shepherd's account, which the pastor or shepherd initially lied about and later allegedly admitted to the police upon being shown evidence. The rest, I'm waiting for the police to confirm. I'm following this case as and when there are updates, I'm going to share with you, but please stay safe out there. What do you think happened here? What do you think are the possible outcomes that could happen? I have a few theories in mind. Would you want to hear them? Okay. It's possible the pastor is responsible, did it for all the reasons we are suspecting he did it for. Or it's also possible that Quadri actually gave a Thanksgiving offering and that somebody else may have done this to him. Somebody in proximity to the church or maybe even within the church, and then possibly buried him on the church premises. Because these things, sometimes it seems clear and cut, but investigations may end and you realize the minutest improbability is what actually happened. So you don't conclude yet. That's how come it's important we wait on the police to conclude. And bear you in mind that whoever is a suspect is still innocent in the eyes of the law until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. I'll leave it here. I'll bring you updates as and when they are due. I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe out there.